Okay, guys, here is how you play against the bird defense, which is this move knight to d4. This is part of the Ruy Lopez Masterclass. There's a PGN file, as always. Let's jump in. Now, the bird defense is not a good opening, but it is occasionally played from time to time, so we should know what to do. Now, just the fact that they're moving the same piece twice so early on does not inspire much confidence in Black's position, and the fact that they're neglecting their normal development makes it very difficult after we take the knight and castle for them to develop, and they already have to answer a very difficult practical question. The knight cannot come to f6 because then e5 will always be hanging over their head, and e5 can come very quickly, and it will be very difficult for Black to deal with it. So their only developing scheme is to move the bishop out first to c5, and then move the knight out afterwards to e7. The other question for Black is, do they want to allow this bishop to continue to cause some trouble when it comes to playing d6 along this diagonal? And the answer is no. So at some point, they're going to want to throw in the move c6. And so the question is when? Are they going to play c6 in this position? Or are they going to first develop their bishop and then play c6 next? Or are they going to first develop their bishop, then develop the knight, and only then play c6? Or they can completely avoid playing c6, but again, it's a little difficult to do so. It also means that they can't easily play d5, right? c6, d5 is somewhat of a plan for Black. So that takes kind of consideration of what Black wants to do. What do we want to do? Well, we've already castled. We have a good pawn on e4, which we could later sort of group together with a pawn on f4, which gives us kingside control. And we can also play d3 when it comes to developing our queenside pieces. So let's see how all of these considerations actually look in action. So first of all, I'll start by just showing what happens if they play c6 in this position. I find that this is a little premature because now they're no longer able to develop their bishop to c5 on part of bishop takes f7, and after king takes queen to h5, and this is already the issue that they find themselves in if they decide to move the same piece twice and then to continue further not developing by playing c6, activating our bishop to its strong diagonal, and then playing bishop c5. Again, bishop f7 is a strong response. So c6 immediately, not so good. They're going to start with bishop c5, we play d3, and here they can play c6. Again, we move the bishop to its most active post, and here they have to do something. Knight to e7, bishop f7 comes once again, and we can go queen h5 and pick up the bishop at our leisure. So they're going to have to play d5, and this is the other point of c6. It blunts our bishop on its very active square, enabling the development of the knight after all. We're going to drop the bishop back. I think it's intuitive to take here and give them doubled pawns. I like to actually drop the bishop back, and the point that I'm having is that after, if they take, queen h5 comes anyways, right? They're not able to play all of these pawn moves without having any consequence, right? And the pressure on this position is overwhelming. So they're not able to take, and that means that we're able to keep the pawn on e4. Essentially, I want to avoid a situation where we don't have an e pawn, because I'm arguing that the e and f pawns in this position give us the energy that we need to punish their play. So I'm playing for f4, and then I'm playing f5 already. Again, if they take, then we're just going to be able to recapture, and we're maintaining our pawns together. There's also f6, which is coming. The bishop is activated. The rook will be activated. The queen will be activated. The kingside attack here plays itself. So after f5, their best move maybe is f6, but now this bishop is forever terrorizing this diagonal. And after the knight simply develops, the queen comes into the game. We're obviously not trading queens here. We have a completely attacking and crushing position. The rook can maneuver over as well. At some point, we can just take the pawn if we want. It also is a way for us to open up the bishop, and our pieces are just primed to attack the black king here that has nowhere to go. And this is quite a brutal way for the game to end. I'm actually just going to stop the position here because we're following a game in which black resigned here, because again, the game is just so crushing, right? White has the most beautiful pair of bishops that I've ever seen, and they can't even, from the black side, develop their queen side. They can't move the rook and then push this pawn because the rook would be taken, and they also can't push the pawn immediately because the rook would be taken. I mean, you don't need to be a genius to see that the bishop's in this position, the queen, the rook, the knight always has potential as well. An attack is coming, an attack is brewing, and black can't stop it. They resigned. So this is what happens if they play c6 and then play d5 in this position. And the final option is for them to delay playing c6 altogether, but this doesn't change the state of the situation much. We play queen h5, so they can play bishop b6 and try to get the bishop out of danger, but now we continue with bishop c4 anyways, at our own leisure, and there's very difficult for black to play here accurately. We play bishop g5, there are pins all around, our bishops are active, f4 is coming, the rook is going to be able to slide in. Again, I don't know why black would, on their own volition, enter such a miserable position. I just don't find these bird opening knight d4 lines appealing whatsoever. I think it's kind of a trick, and if white doesn't play accurately, then maybe they get a fine position, but I mean, this position is just so fun to play as well. Look at this. White here, incorrectly in the game, even wasted a tempo, moving the queen from h5 to f3 and then back to h5, and they're still fine, right? I don't know why they did this. I mean, they obviously were debating where the queen should be, but obviously they wasted some tempo. Their advantage became smaller and smaller, but again, they're still fine. You can waste time in this position because the attack is just so powerful here. Again, we have a similar transformation. The bishop activates at some point because black can hardly play without striking with d5, but again, this allows white to eventually activate, and we have a very similar situation. The knight is able to come in. After bishop c6, black played this move and then saw the position and resigned because it's such a bad move. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad move, it's just such a bad position. And in fact, by the way, here, there is actually just a mate, so I guess it is a pretty bad move. That's a nice one. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm going through these fast, but the point is their only way to develop with c6 and bishop c5 and 97 is not even enough for them to hold an equal position. We're able to attack them regardless of what they do. I think that's about enough to cover this line. Let me double check quickly that I haven't missed something. So we're castling. We've looked at the immediate c6. We've concluded that it is too premature. They can play knight f6, for example, instead of bishop c5, which again allows this tactic. So they can play knight f6, but again, this allows us to strike with e5. This is why the knight doesn't want to be on f6. It simply allows itself to be a target. And now the tripled pawns here are probably one of the worst pawn structures we've seen in this course, and the attack isn't even over. Knight g5, it's over. f7, h7, GG's. Yeah, really fun game, really fun positions. So again, knight f6 immediately, not good because e5, they're going to have to play c6. They can play like bishop e7 and play maybe a slower situation, but again, now the knight here isn't able to develop to e7. It has to come to e7, to f6 rather, but this allows, and it walks right into e5, and it has to come back, and again, we're taking the knight here, we're wrecking their structure, the knight is coming to f6, the mate is unstoppable. So I'm just going through some other random choices they have. Let me double check here. Yeah, I think this is it, guys, right? They can play bishop c5, probably the best, but again, if they want to play for c6, they're going to have to contend with a very weak diagonal that allows for bishop takes f7. They can play d5, but this is not sufficient either. f4 is coming, f5, the attack is playing itself. I love these positions. I pray that my opponents play these lines against me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of short, a little bit chaotic, but you don't need to know a whole lot. I think the idea of quickly castling, playing d3, playing for f4, if they ever hit the bishop, put it on c4, look for these tactics, look for the attack, and play a good game of chess. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're new around here. Like the video if you learned something from it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.